From the far horizons of the unknown time and space, there are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in 1,000,000 could-be years on 1,000 would-be worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in association with Street and Smith Booksellers, presents X-Minus One. Tonight's story, Colony, by Philip K. Dick. The existence of Planet Blue, the fourth in orbit around the G-type sun somewhere in the Aldebaran sector, was predicted by spectroscopic analysis and spatial mathematical equation some 50 years before an exploring mission was dispatched to it. The research team, under the direction of Dr. Stella Morrison of the Colonial Administration, went into orbit around Planet Blue at 0700 standard hours. Authorized procedures were followed.
Aerial photography completed, Captain.
Anything show on the plates?
Well, Masterson was suspicious of these lines towards the poles. The angles seem to be coincidence.
They aren't artifacts?
Glacial faults. Geological survey reports no volcanism.
The launch is back.
Dodds has a landing site. Preliminary atmospheric tests look good. There's a 0.7 bulge in oxygen, but it's just enough to make you feel good. Looks like an open air job. No pressure suits or condenser masks needed. Ha!
Well, that's precisely what they thought on Centauri 1, and the whole expedition was wiped out by spores.
Of course, I was assuming a favorable biocheck.
Preliminary photographic survey, Mr. Wood. You want that playback here? We had them transcribed into tapes.
If you please, Lieutenant.
AI, pipe the phototapes up here on 324.
My, looks like a green biosphere, all right. Punch up the biotape, if you please, Lieutenant.
All orbital checks proved positive. Their sensor readings seemed not. The atmosphere and gravity, Earth normal to 3 places on the Grayson scale. The exploratory research ship lowered itself by the Merson-Ley atmospheric skip method, came into a stalled tail landing just before sunset on a day marked in the logs as planetfall 0. The hatches remained sealed as a 2-mile perimeter was scanned. Major Lawrence Hall of EEG sweeps reported to the bridge.
Of course, it isn't conclusive. We've run into life forms before that didn't broadcast a brainwave at all. The lizards on Ganovive, their skulls acted like an effective shield due to the heavy lead constituent in their body chemistry.
Major Hall, I'm not interested in a lecture on extraterrestrial zoology. Is there, or is there not, any life between our ship and the range of our instruments?
Well, I'm sorry, Stella. The readings show no electrical brain activity whatsoever, and that covers life down to the level of invertebrates. There may be a few worms turning out there. Unless they're thinking awfully hard about something, we wouldn't pick them up.
Well, thank you. I want preliminary drones out there for sampling. How long do you think that will take?
Well, a thorough job would take about 2 weeks.
I have a schedule, Major. How long until you can give me a protective Schedule C clearance?
2 days. I had to check the airborne spores and microorganisms.
Carry on, Major.
All right, Stella, I'll let you know if I turn up any special diseases on Planet Blue.
Thank you. Please call me Dr. Morrison. I am your superior.
Drone sample missiles were dispatched at sunrise. Air scoops, ground chompers, and vegetation samplers were used, and the bio team conducted cohesive tests. Immediately identified airborne dangers were ruled out. Planet Blue was ruled safe for normal exploration procedures. The real work of the survey was gotten underway.
Here's the morning report, Commander. 4 in sickbay, 3 ordered to light duty.
What happened?
Last night, the crew received their liquor rations.
Oh.
Survey team is out in the field. Bio crew under Major Hall. Agronomy, geological, and deep map teams out.
Reports back?
The map crew suggests that there may be petroleum, and agronomy says if you dropped a viable seed in this soil, you'd have to jump back to avoid being knocked over by the plant.
That sounds pretty good.
Commander, Blue is about as likely a candidate for colonization as any that has turned up since Harvey's planet in 27.
It will be glad to hear that in Central. How long do you think until we can send back a messenger drone for clearance?
I've checked up with the department chiefs. They all estimate 2 or 3 days until they're satisfied. All except Bio.
Why is Major Hall dragging his feet?
I don't know.
We'll find out. And in the meantime, I'm calling a staff meeting. All departments. If Blue is a candidate for colonization, I don't want to waste a minute.
By planetfall plus 3 weeks, all departments had reported favorably except biology. Ecological survey pointed out the difficulty involved in the importance of importing animal life. But this problem had already been met in the colonization of Gamma 2 and 3 when an entire colony had been transported in frozen gene banks, fertilized, and incubated on the site. Biology, however, still withheld a favorable report.
Look, Hall, what is the holdup?
Stella, just call me Larry. We go way back.
I'm serious. I've just got an official query from Central. They want to fish or cut bait on Blue. Your department is the only one holding it up. We're 2 weeks behind schedule.
The colony on Vishnu 9 was on schedule and 7,000 died with green spots.
That was before the full biotech technique was worked out.
My dear, do you know how many different microorganisms there are in a teaspoon of dirt?
I'm not a freshman student of biology, and cut the deer crap.
Oh, and I was hoping I could tempt you into some field work.
Someday, Larry, you're going to make a remark in front of officers or even enlisted personnel, and I'm going to have to call you on it.
Afraid for your dignity?
Look, I'm in charge of this expedition. My dignity happens to be a function of command, and as such, a survival factor.
Well, then you had better take it easy. You know, I saw 2 crew members watching you climb the ladder. Do you know what their affectionate nickname for you is?
Major Hall, I'm serious. I want a bioclearance as soon as possible.
And you will get it as soon as possible.
And when will that be?
When I'm satisfied that it's safe.
Are the bugs here so dangerous that you're afraid of them?
No, on the contrary. We have yet to find a single harmful life form.
Well, you didn't report that. If there are no harmful life forms, then...
No mites, no fleas, no disease germs, no parasites or malignant viruses.
Well, then what is the problem? What are you waiting for?
There should be at least one little fellow who could give you a common cold.
Sociology section found no native narcotic plant life. And inasmuch as there is no humanoid life, there is no bootlegging, gambling, immorality, or pornography either. By analogy, that would be a good reason not to colonize? Is that the idiotic logic you are following?
Microbiology is a little different, Stella. What is the rush? There's something different here. There's something peaceful in the air. Why rush to bring picnickers who will drop candy wrappers and spill beer?
Larry, I have a board conference in 10 minutes with Central. If you don't bring in some kind of report by then, I'll have to supersede you under Section 23.
Ah, if you recall, that's what happened on Vishnu, followed by the green spots and the corpse wagons to drag the dead out of the colony streets.
Never mind that, Major. I want a report.
In the biology lab, Major Lawrence Hall continued to examine lower flora samples brought in from Planet Blue. He settled a container of prepared slides and flipped a switch on an electron microscope. Major Hall slid the first slide on the stage of the microscope and adjusted the focus knob.
Come on. Ah, there you are. Come on, kid, eat something.
The microorganism S. forma rotifer displayed none of the usual characteristics of ferocity and aggression they exhibited on several other planets. Presently, however, Major Hall stopped whistling. The 2 eyepieces of his microscope began to elongate, like reaching arms, and twisted suddenly around his windpipe and began to strangle him. Hall reached up and tried to wrench them away, but they dug relentlessly into his throat, the steel prongs closing like the claws of a predatory cat. He fell to the floor, scrambling, kicking his chair while the microscope dug in deeper. With a compulsive effort, he managed to break free and fling the object across the room.
What? It's crazy. It's got my leg. What the hell is happening?
Hall scraped the microscope against the leg of his metal table. It scuttled away, pulling itself by its coarse adjustment knobs. Hall managed to reach a blaster that was stored in a desk drawer and fired. The microscope disappeared in a cloud of metallic particles. The planning board of the research team was assembled in the ship library. Commander Stella Morrison was outlining plans on a detailed aerial survey map.
This long flat area is ideal for the actual city. There's an adequate watershed in the hills here. Weather conditions vary sufficiently to give the settlers something to talk about. There are large deposits of various minerals. The colonists can set up their own factories with minimal importing. Over here is the largest florist on the planet. If they have any sense, they will leave it, but if they want to make newspapers out of it, that's not our concern. Now, all reports are in except for bio, and I think before long we will be...
Stella!
Major Hall, may I remind you that when council is in session, no one is permitted to interrupt.
Will you come to my lab immediately?
Look, Hall, if you're not feeling well, I mean, you do look a little sick.
Well, it would make sense if I did. My microscope just tried to strangle me.
Oh, really?
What?
It almost got me. I managed to blast it, but that's not the worst.
It isn't?
No, the microscope is still there. After I blasted it, I found it under the lab bench in pristine condition.
Look, Major, you sure you don't need a psych test?
Well, I don't know. I suppose it does sound a little...
You look a little traumatized to me.
Huh? Oh, maybe you're right. I'm sorry. Please excuse me. I'll check into medical.
Maybe I better go with you.
Put Major Hall on psych eval. Could he be hallucinating? We'll have to proceed with the colonization procedure without his approval.
Major Hall proceeded to Psych Center and inserted his bio ID card in the Neo Rorschach machine. He placed his hands on the contacts and activated the Gestalt circuits. Presently, the green light flashed, indicating tentative diagnosis. Major Hall hit the response key. Severe disturbance. Instability ratio above 10.
That's over danger, isn't it?
Yes, 8 is danger. 10 is highly unusual, especially for a person of your index. Your norm is 4. I require more data to determine if this ratio is an aberrant reaction or normal survival-oriented.
Well, I can't tell you anymore.
It is illegal to hold back information during a robo-psych evaluation. You could distort the diagnosis, which is punishable by 6 weeks forfeiture of pay and allowances or other such penalty as a court-martial.
Thanks a heap. Now look, will you record a high degree of unbalance for me?
There is a high degree of psychic deviation, but what it signifies or its etiology I am unable to determine without further data.
Well, take a tip from me. Stay away from homicidal microscopes.
You made a Freudian slip, Commander. You undoubtedly mean to say homicidal maniacs. This error indicates a possible maladjustment in the area of your specialty.
Oh, why don't you go grease your id?
I'll consider that suggestion. Major Hall returned to the biolab and tested the area where he fired his blast gun at the microscope. The analysis showed a high density of metallic particles colloidally suspended in the air. In a state of confusion with an emotional distress quotient of at least 0.742, he stepped out of his uniform and entered the shower.
Well, you can't expect anybody to believe a story like that. I must be off my rocker. Maybe I should take a 6-week break.
He stepped out of the shower and reached for one of the towels on the rack. The towel wrapped around his wrist and yanked him against the wall, slithering like a snake, encircling his arm and wrapped itself around his neck. He fought wildly, pulling it away from him, but one corner of the towel tried to force its way down his throat. He struggled, and all at once the towel let go. Major Hall crawled out of the shower and proceeded to dress, but his belt, heavy canvas with reinforced metal links, began to squeeze around his waist to crush him. The belt, being a heavy-duty issue, was strong. He rolled on the floor with that before he managed to remove it and reach his blaster. He threw himself into a nearby chair and hoped that he could catch his breath. The arms of the chair started to close around him, but this time he was ready.
Major, I don't believe you were announced.
Commander, Stella, I...
You're armed. Regulations forbid entering a...
I'm sorry, Stella, this is important.
I have a report from the robo-psych tester. It says you've hit a ration of 10 within the last 24-hour period. We've known each other for a long time. Put the gun down and answer me. What's happening to you?
Listen to me. Everything I'm going to say is the god-awful truth, so help me. This afternoon, a microscope tried to strangle me. Today, when I got out of the shower, a bath towel tried to smother me. I got by that, but while I was dressing, my belt, and then the armchair...
Wood, get in here on the double.
Stella, would you listen to me? This is serious. I am not fooling. Ordinary objects suddenly turning lethal. Maybe this is what we've been looking for.
Your microscope tried to kill you? You're not making any sense.
told you, Stem's got me here in the windpipe. Maybe you can see the bruise.
No one else saw this happen.
No, I blasted it, but then I found it again. Perfectly all right.
I say, Wood,
Yes, ma'am.
get 2 guards and take Hall to Captain Taylor in sickbay. Have him confined until we can be sent back to Terra for a more detailed examination.
Listen, Stella.
You can't prove this story, and I'll have to assume a psychotic projection on your part, and we can't afford to have anyone suffering from psychotic hallucinations on the mission. Wood, take him away.
You'll be all right, Hall. Back on Earth, they can clear this thing up in like a few weeks. Hey, they'll give you good drugs, put you in a hollow relaxation chamber. You'll be better in no time.
Maybe you're right, Wood. But I swear.
Here we are. Captain Taylor. Captain Taylor. He should be in. Captain? The hatch isn't locked. Taylor, what's the matter?
He's wrapped in the rug, and that stethoscope is choking him. Quick, before he crushed, grab the rod.
Now hear this. General alarm. Emergency station. Condition red. Sidearms to be issued to all personnel. Report to the armory if you weren't equipped. General alarm.
Captain Taylor tells me the rug came from Earth. His grandmother made it.
That's what I've been trying to tell you. It is not his grandmother's rug that attacked him.
Then what was it?
Something that looked like this rug, and it was something that looked like a microscope that attacked me, and a towel, and the belt, and a chair.
You mean a life form that can imitate anything?
It seems so, and it's deadly. It must have got in through the samples we gathered from the planet.
Hey, Charlie, general alarm. Get up out of bed. Hey, where did I get a second pair of gloves? Well, either pair is as good as the other. Eeny, meeny, miny. What do you know? These gloves are moving. What in the hell? They're going for my pistol. Hey, look out! Ah!
Commander, there's another casualty. Lieutenant Dobbs.
What happened?
He seems to have shot himself.
Oh no.
Bella, I think I may have something. Look.
Dodds is dead.
Look, we know that this thing can camouflage itself. It can imitate anything and any object it comes in contact with. All right, now listen to this. This is the answer. It's a recording from Captain Galt. He was out on a biosurvey. He was talking to the operator at base. Now, listen to this.
Head for home now. What's this emergency about? Stella having hysterics? Heat up some coffee for me. I'll be in a minute. That's odd. Where's my bucket? I swear I put my bucket down right over here by the trees. That's funny. There's another bucket by the trees. Where did this one come from? What? Ah! It bit my foot. It's folding up around me. Help! Get a squad out here. I've got to help. Someone get me out of here before I... His transmission just stopped.
We are up against some organic form of life. There should be some way to destroy it. I mean, we've already blasted a few, but we have no idea how many more there are. Maybe it's one life form, infinitely divisible.
Had over 12 casualties reported, and there's still 5 teams out there.
That explains why everything else we looked at was harmless. Nothing could compete with this. We have mimic plants on our own world, and Venus had a twisted slug, but nothing goes this far.
It can be killed, though? You're sure of that?
If it can be found, it can imitate anything. And we can't tell which is which. Chairs, rugs, maybe even our own blasters. We've got to find some spray or a poison that could destroy them wholesale.
Oh, no.
What's the matter?
In the corner, look. There's 2 briefcases. There was only one before, I think. Oh, how can we know?
Shortly after the casualty report of 30 dead and 12 wounded, Major Hall sealed off the biochambers and moved in with a team from Chem Section, all dressed in corrosive-resistant suits.
Now, make sure you've got a tight seal on the neck joint.
What are you going to do, Major?
Well, I've got a combination of arsenic and hydrogen under pressure. Arsine gas. It should give us an idea of how far they've infiltrated. It's deadly to us, so check your helmets. Now, focus. I don't want any panicking blasting. Arsine is flammable, all right? Release the valve.
As the gas filled the room, the first to go was the filing cabinet. It began to quiver, then melted and oozed to the floor. Then several Bunsen burners and test tubes joined the multicolored puddle on the floor. The lab was sealed off and a meeting was held in Commander Morrison's quarters.
Well, this is protoplasm, all right. You can see that when the mimic lost its shape and melted. They seem to come in units about the size of a hand, but they join together to make larger objects, communicating silently and efficiently like a hungry ant colony.
Can we spray them all?
Our signs seem to make them lose their shape and stun them, but we haven't got enough to clean the whole ship. We can't flood the planet. We wouldn't be able to use our blasters.
We'll have to give up on the settlement and go home.
Stella, I'm afraid you don't understand. We can't risk bringing them back with us to our own system, disguised as a boot or a helmet. They seem to replicate by binary fission. It won't take long until they've overrun Earth and the rest of the system.
But if we stay here, they will pick us off one by one.
We could have arsine brought in, or some other poison, but that would destroy the trees and the moss that's already here.
We will have to burn the planet clean. Wood?
Yes, sir.
Set up a system monitor here. I'm going to get the unit out of danger. After that, we can work on the best way of cleaning off this planet.
And run the risk of taking us back to Terra.
Can they imitate higher life forms? Can they masquerade as humans?
Apparently not. They seem to be limited to inorganic subjects.
Then we go back without any.
But our clothes. They can imitate the synthetic fibers. The belts, gloves, boots.
We aren't taking our clothes. Dump everything. Personal belongings, tools, blasters. We are going back without anything at all.
Oh. I see.
Get me a beam to Central, monitor immediately. The nearest cruiser was 2 light hours away. Captain Daniel Davis commanding. Type beam communication was established after coordinates were flashed from Central Monitor.
This is Captain Davis. Do you read me?
I read you, Commander Morrison here. Captain, you are to make planetfall as soon as possible at coordinates to be supplied. 51 crewmates need a rescue. Don't be alarmed, we are going to board your ship without any clothing.
Did I hear you correctly, Commander? Did you say you'll be naked?
Yes, naked.
That's, well...
When will you land?
About 1,500 hours, I'd say.
Captain, would it be possible for your men to...
I'll have my crew below decks when we land on autopilot.
Thank you.
There was some objection among the enlisted personnel, particularly among the women's quarters. At 1,200 hours, the cruiser appeared 3 hours sooner than expected.
All hands, disrobe and report to the field, ready to embark.
So soon?
I didn't hear the ship land.
It's there. I can see it out the window. You go ahead. I'd rather get ready alone.
In the center of the landing field was the cruiser, its hull pitted and dented by meteor strikes. It lay motionless save for some blinking lights with no sign of life aboard. A crowd of naked people moved across the field in the bright sunlight. Commander Stella Morrison, with no sign of rank apparent, hesitated on the metal ramp and spoke to Major Lawrence Hall beside her.
Larry,
What is it?
I'm scared.
Why?
I don't know.
It's just a psychological reaction. You associate nudity with danger from your early childhood. Come on, we're holding up the line.
Larry, I think we ought to go back.
Stella, now at least Davis kept his promise. There's no men looking out the windows to enjoy the view. You see, it's dark in there. There's nothing to worry about. Come on, up you go.
The last of the research team filed into the interior of the ship, and the hatch closed behind them. At 1,500 hours, Captain Daniel Davis arrived and landed his ship in the center of the field. Automatic relays opened the hatch and lowered the ramp. Davis and his staff sat in the control cabin waiting.
Well, how do you like that? Where are they?
Maybe this whole thing was a joke. 51 naked crew members? Oh, we've waited an hour and we haven't seen a one.
They waited and waited, but no one came. You have just heard a fan-produced tribute to X-1, which was originally presented by the National Broadcasting Company in collaboration with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction. Tonight by transcription, Colony by Philip K. Dick, from the pages of Galaxy magazine, adapted for radio by Ernest Cannoi in 1956 and Isaac Paris in 2021. Featured in the cast were Jon Deline, Nick Price, Michael Hanson, Jesika Barnes, and Andrew Laniohan. X-1 is an NBC Radio Network production.